Okay, so here we are back again, little internet glitch. So Candy, please share with us what you love and enjoy about Pennsylvania and North Carolina.
Oh, that's actually an easy one. I guess I'm going to say what I miss first. I miss the spring in Pennsylvania. I miss the changing of the seasons. I miss the smell of lilacs in the season when they come out. When they first come out, they're just so wonderful. I love the smell, the sound of the world around you when you're outside at night after the very first big snowfall of the season. There's a hush that's just, you don't experience that any other place. I love all those things. However, I really, really hate the snow. I don't ever want to shovel it again. So I love North Carolina because it doesn't snow very often, sometimes, but not very often here on the coast where I am. And when it does, I get to laugh at everybody down here because I'm used to 6 feet of snow, and they're closing school for 3 days for 6 inches of snow. So I love North Carolina because it's at the beach. I love the fact that North Carolina has it all. It's got the beach, it's got the tundra, the center part. They call it the it's going on in my head. But it's the grassy part of the state, and then you've got the mountains on the western side. So it really is amazing what they've got. And I love the fact that it's close to wherever I want to go. It's a pretty easy place to get in and out of. So if I want to go traveling around again, I can. And I love the people down here. I'll never be a Southern girl, but I sure do love the Southern girls and boys.
I totally agree. My family's from the South, and I love, they call, the Southern hospitality. Mm-hmm. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, so how did you, when you moved out there not knowing anybody, how did you start meeting people?
I'm the type of person that I just do. I just decided that I needed to go out, and I would go out and find people. My neighbors in the building where I lived, I met them first, and it was one of my neighbors who introduced me to shag dancing, and that's how I met people, was through dance. I went out, and he invited me to come to a lesson. I went to the lesson, and I took lessons for about 1.5 years, and closer to 2 years, I guess, and that's how I found my community, and it's grown from there. Also, I also belong to Business and Professional Women, BPW. Okay. And there was a BPW chapter here in Wilmington, so I was able to join that and network in that way. But I looked at those sorts of things and just found my way. I knew I had to do something. So, although I have to admit that it was not a great time for me when I first moved down here, because we had just lost my brother, and 15 days later we lost my stepmother. And just a few months earlier than that, we had lost my stepfather, my mother's husband. So it was a time when we had a great deal of loss in our family and our lives. So I spent probably close to the first year I was down here healing and getting better and focusing on me and knowing who I was and supporting my mother and my father as they went through their own grief. So.
Wow, that's a lot. So what helped you to heal and get through that?
Time mostly, but I think what's helped me in addition to that was being in a new place and making new friends and making connections with others that I had lost touch with, actually. The people who are back where I'm from originally that I'm now in touch with, that I never would see them from month to month, and we lived in the same community, but now I'm in touch with them almost daily through the internet.
Wow. So you've mentioned several times actually about your brothers. What were their names?
My name's Candy, my brother was Andy, and my other brother was Randy.
Oh, that is awesome.
That Andy married Sandy.
Oh, wow. Okay. So whose idea was that, your mom or your dad's, to have the rhythm?
The rhythm was coming from my mother, I think. My father wanted to call me Fortune, and she said no. So Candy, I think, was a compromise, because they were going to name any boy would be called Andy. So they decided when I came first that I'd be Candy. And then I think Randy was sort of like, okay, gonna keep going at that point.
Awesome. That's awesome. What's your favorite memory of Andy?
This is going to sound funny. My favorite memory of Andy was when he would beat up the boys on the playground when they picked on me.
Oh, okay. They picked on you. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So Andy was really the defensive type. Okay.
Yes, he was the one, and he was the middle boy, and he was the little boy. He was just a little kid, but oh, he would just pile into them if they were picking on me.
And what about Randy?
Oh, Burl Ives. That's a strange thing to remember about my brother, but he used to make up these songs, and he'd make up these adventures that he and Burl Ives used to go on adventures together. So Burl Ives was a singer, and we had a record, and it was a child's record of Burl Ives singing children's songs. And Randy and Burl Ives used to go on great adventures, and he would make up the most wonderful stories about those adventures.
So it sounds like you have very good imaginations and creative in your family blood.
Yeah, definitely.
And where does that come from, mom or dad? Or
Mother, I think.
Mother, okay.
Yes, I think so.
Was she a writer?
My mother wanted to be a lawyer, but she didn't.
Wow.
So she never did. But no, she's not a writer, but she is artistic in her own way. She sews, so she's a craft person.
Oh, I admire anyone who can sew.
Yes.
Huge admiration for that. And what about?
I can't.
Yeah, I can't sew anything. That's the only time I had to stay after school. Back then they had sewing, and I failed. I thought, why are we doing this? You just buy it.
Yeah.
You just buy it. So your dad, what line of work was he in?
My father was always working with his hands. He worked in a foundry. He worked in his later years. He worked for a railroad company that was going all around the country, taking up old rail ties and then putting down the new. So he spent a lot of time traveling the country.
Wow, that's cool. I bet he has a lot of stories to share.
He does. Sometimes they aren't all that understandable now, but he does have a lot of stories, and he's told me a lot of them over the years.
Cool. So what's next for you? Like what's next for Candy?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Well, I have a man in my life who I love desperately. His name is Robert, and I think the next phase for me is keeping this business going as long as I want to do it, and then to take my time and spend my time to enjoy Robert and enjoy my father and my mother while I have them.
Awesome. So Robert, how'd you meet him?
It was a shag dance. He was not a member. He's a traveling nurse, and he was sitting in the corner and over by the food table because we were having a food event. And I went over. All my friends had left, and I went over to have one last little piece of cake. And actually, it wasn't cake, but it was a snack I was going to have. And we started talking, and he asked me to dance, and we just kept dancing. We're still dancing 4 years later.
Wow, that is such a cool story. I always love to hear how people meet and their love, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, is there any other experiences or anything you else you like to share before we wrap up?
Oh, I don't know. You've got my mind going all different directions here. I don't know. I think that the one thing that I would like to say to anyone who's listening to this is that don't be afraid to try. If you have something that you've always thought you wanted to do and you don't know how to do it, well, find someone who can help you to do it. Don't be afraid to step out and try new things, because it's way too short this time we're on this earth. And we might just as well try things. If you fail, okay, pick it up and try something else again. But don't be afraid to at least step out and try.
That's amazing advice, because look, if you never tried shag dancing, you wouldn't even have met the love of your life, right?
That's right. All I wanted was a snack.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you, Candy, and thank you everyone for listening. And I'm so grateful for all the good you do in writing, because that's not our strength. And keep on being awesome, okay?
You too. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.